Today, we're going to be talking about the faster than gravity protocol. This one's not for everybody. Not everybody's doing vertical jump training in this group. I know some people are working on other things and eventually got to do some vertical jump training, but I've had a lot of requests for this training. It's a vertical jump system. If you have very little time, there's one exercise, the jump manual's in here. What I'm teaching tonight is part of my masterclass series. And what else do we got in here? A lean power protocol, which is a dieting protocol that I used for a while. We got an injury proof system, a scoring system. There's a bunch of products in here. Yeah, we learn a lot of protocols in here. We learn things that will actually improve us, how to do the work. But if we don't master these 4 things, becoming a visionary in our life, then none of the protocols even matter, right? If we don't show up and get a little bit of progress every day, these protocols, they might as well not even exist. So that's really the biggest thing for all of us is becoming. The way I think about this program is there's disciplines that will make you a visionary in your life, meaning you'll get clear on what you want. You'll get clear on focusing your energy and your intention. You'll get clear at hearing the little voice, the voice of God in you. That's how you become a visionary. And then there's the warrior. And the warrior is actually going out and doing stuff. So it's a combination of becoming a visionary and a warrior. And so when we talk about the transformational qualities, these are the qualities that we work on. Most of us got started at some point. If we don't have a vision in our life is full of pain. It's just the way it is. Vision is what motivates us in life. And if we don't have it, pain is what will motivate us. And to practice pain, that's what a coach is for. That's why I've used a coach too, and I still get coached. I think it's so important to stay with the truth of your life. That's how you practice pain, is you understand what your consequences are, right? So here is the high level benefits of doing faster than gravity. They're a little bit complicated, so stick with me. The first one, which is called accommodating resistance. So typically if you do a bench press, the weight gets easier to move as you move it through the range of motion because gravity is now working. You've got inertia. The joint angles are easier. It gets easier as you get to the top. When you use the bands properly, it gets harder when you get to the top. So that's called accommodating resistance. That means as the band stretches and you get through the motion, the bands pull harder on you. So the second one is because of that, you'll no longer decelerate when you're moving through the range of motion. So if you got a weight and it's getting easier and you're at the top of your movement, you slow yourself down because you don't want to throw the weight off your back. But when you've got bands and you're moving through the motion and they pull harder as you're moving, it allows you to go harder at the top and accelerate all the way through the motion. So a traditional squat for jumping actually has you slowing down at the top because of the deceleration. All right, the next one is that you cannot escape the tension of the bands. So that means your time under tension is completely persistent. That means your muscle is always going to be under tension. So whereas with weight, there's a moment where when you lift the weight, it can come off your hand and the resistance will leave. You won't have any time under tension. And the last one is one of the first things I did when I started doing my own research is I got an EMG. And so I was in Canada. I went to this show and I bought it. He stuck it all over my athletes. I was sticking it on everybody and just watching what was happening in the body. And it gave me like a chart, like a heartbeat monitor, only it was for your whole body. And when you did certain movements, it would spike an electronic signal that you could see that you had activated the muscle. So what the bands will allow to do is if I could strap you up with my EMG machine and you were using the bands, you would see a massive impulse as opposed to just using weights. So it's going to give you the strongest possible impulse. I know this is a complex topic, but here's what you need to know. Here's 3 different ways you can set it. This one, you can use the bands and just put them to your feet. That's the simple way. That's the way you can practice your jumps, and that will create a faster than gravity resistance. You're basically jumping, perfectly landing, and then jumping again. So you're practicing like a box squat, only you're doing it a box drop, a plyometric drop, only you're doing it with just the bar. So this is the second way to set it up. And the last way to set it up is to use dumbbells. So what I like to do is get either a 100-pound dumbbell or 270-pound dumbbells, and then you wrap the band around the dumbbell, and then you tether it to the top. So I'm going to show you how this plays out here. So here's where, once you've got your band set up, there's a few things you want to realize. If you've got the band set up and you bend down into your squat, the bands should never go sloppy. They shouldn't get lax. So if your bands are getting lax, that means you need to wrap it around the weights more times so it stays nice and taut. You don't want it to go lax at the bottom. You want it to be just a little bit. And also realize when you go down, the band tension is going to go to practically zero. But as you get to the top, the band tension can become as much as 50 or 100 pounds at the top. So just keep in mind, for a lot of you, the first time you do accommodating resistance with bands, it's going to feel really weird because you're not used to the weight getting harder as you're moving through the range of motion. So start with very lightweight. Don't put your max on there and add bands. That's a recipe to get flopped on the floor. You definitely want to start with very lightweight, get used to how it pulls on your body. You see how the dumbbells here on the top right-hand corner, you want to put them pretty close to the bar. You don't want to scoot them out too far, because if you scoot them out too far, you're gonna pull the squat out of the pins and it's gonna pull you backwards super fast. You're gonna fall down. So you want to have it basically where your feet are going to be set. You want to have it in a straight line there. Don't put it all the way back here. It's going to fling you backwards.
A quick question. So for foot placement, when we're working that routine, is it going to be similar to squat, or is it perhaps, or is it more jumping technique as if you were playing basketball? That's up to the hoop trying to jump. For me, it's always the points. You've always seen in the gym up here, drive off your heels. So the squat technique feels better. Driving off, clenching my foot and driving through the entire base of my foot rather than the heel. Driving off, you had the plates to that certain angle, or you drive in 3-fold, or you drive from typically jump.
You'll drive through the center of your foot, and so a lot of the pressure will be on the front, the forefoot, and you'll just drive all the way through, your power all the way up. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, imagine, like you were gonna jump. The bands will make it so you couldn't jump, but if you tried, you could try to jump, but the band weight will keep you from going off the ground. That's the nice thing about it. If you had a squat, you'd get to the top, and it's easy at the top, so you slow down. So you'll feel the difference for sure. And this is how you want to think about it. So as you're going down to get to your counter movement, you stay slow and controlled. And then as soon as you hit your counter movement, you conjure up whatever it is that gets you fired up, and you crank it through the counter movement. So the counter movement is the most important part of the lift. What you do when you hit the counter movement is the most important part of your lift. So to put it in perspective, the counter movement, this is just scientific truth. The speed of your counter movement will determine your jump height at the end of the day, because your counter movement will determine how much velocity you can get at the toe off. So velocity is actually what determines jump height. Whatever velocity you hit right before you leave the ground, velocity will determine your jump height, period. So when you can start your counter movement with more explosiveness, you'll get more velocity when you jump. So that's the way you think of it, slow and controlled. As soon as you hit that counter movement, you're almost planning for it. You're just slow and controlled, and boom, slow and controlled, popping out of it. And that also means you want to do more sets with less reps. So rather than doing 4 sets of 10, you would prefer to do 10 sets of 4. That way, every rep, you can be focusing on that counter movement. Before you do this, always do warm up and mobility work. This is really intense stuff. It's the stuff that I would work with the highest level athletes. This is what I would give them. It's okay for every athlete too. You just need to make sure you're warm, make sure that you get some sets in with less weight, and just really make sure that your back is in good shape and you're feeling good. You should be sweating. Start with lightweight. I recommend that you rotate the bands into your vertical jump training 2 to 3 times per month. You don't have to do it every time. Your mojo is always what should tell you if you need to back off the training a little bit. If you're not touching your mojo at least, or increasing your mojo every couple of weeks or so, you might want to do a little bit of recovery. And the last thing is you're going to be adding usually between 10 to 30% of your total bar weight. So let's say, for example, you can do a 100-pound squat. So if you can do a 100-pound squat, you would instead put probably 60 pounds on the bar, not 100. And then you would add weights so that at the top, it added 20 to 30 to 40 pounds at the top. So that way, when the band tension is at its highest, you'll get the full resistance on there. So what I used to do, have you ever seen those luggage weights that you hook to your luggage and then you lift it up and it tells you how heavy your luggage is? What I would do is take my luggage weight, my luggage scale to the gym, and I would hold it up to where my shoulders were, and it would tell me essentially how much weight it was going to be at the top. That's one way to do it. They're just little hooks with a little weight on it, with a reading on it that tells you how much. That's what I would use to calculate it for safety. You'll get used to it once you guys start doing it now. Yep. Guys, we went a little long today, so I'm not going to hold you and teach it. We'll just make sure you're feeling comfortable on it. But this, I recommend at least 2 exercises you do with this. One is the front heels lifted explosive squats. And then 2, you get in the cage and you put just the bar with no weight and the bands, and you do your jumps. So jump, perfect landing. Jump, perfect landing, until you can start doing jump. But that usually would come later.
Okay. But at least 2 days a week with the band work for the jumps, and then 2 days a week with the.
Yeah. And you can get creative, Thomas. I've put these bands, somehow I've hooked them up to lat pull down machines. I've hooked them up to leg presses. I've hooked them up to just about everything. So you can get creative if you want, because the bands allow you to get these 4 benefits: accommodated resistance, no decelerating, a very strong neural impulse, and you'll get consistent time under tension. So you can add the bands to anything to get a little lift. Again, when you do it with the bench, be careful of your placement, because if you put the bands in front of you, like towards your feet, it's going to pull it off towards your feet. So you just got to you can't get lazy. You got to be really careful about your placement. Bands and chains are a really good way to get a strong bench press. Chains are similar to bands because they provide accommodating resistance and they eliminate deceleration, but they don't give you the high-speed neural impulse or the persistent time under tension. So bands and chains are both big parts of the West Side Barbell for strength.
It's going to be fun to experiment with this new protocol. It's going to take some time to get something in concrete that I know I'm comfortable. I'm excited.
I'm going to go ahead and close this out with the prayer, guys.
Absolutely.
Heavenly Father, we're just grateful for this moment to be together, this moment to strengthen each other and fortify each other. We're just grateful for our blessings. We're grateful for our health, for our family, for the people who support us. And we just ask that you help us become the best we can be. Just keep us motivated, excited, and just give us the love for ourselves, and just help us to be examples and serve those people around us, and just to hear and follow your word and your guidance in our heart. And I always say things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.